Looking for captioning. No, I'm not finding captioning.
It might be under more. Mine's under more and then captions.
I have more. It's not under my more.
Down at the very bottom, so you might have to bring your toolbar for Zoom back up.
Yeah, I have it here.
Okay, and
I have
show
audio
caption or show CC.
show meeting, which I've never seen before. I don't have it, I'm telling you. Which is very interesting. I have show meeting. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry, no, I'm messed up.
Yeah, the captionings are enabled, Erin. I can see them popping up now. But if you don't need them while you're presenting.
Yeah, now I lost my
but-
Now I lost my presentation. I did something weird. Okay. Apologies. Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session, learning about learning opportunities and experiences in OLI professional development. And I'm here with some wonderful colleagues. I'm Erin Czerwinski. I am the manager of learning engineering at the Open Learning Initiative at Carnegie Mellon University. And I will turn it over to each of my esteemed colleagues to introduce themselves as well. I guess, Karen, you go first since you're on the topic.
Hi, folks. I'm Karen, and I teach in upstate New York at SUNY Potsdam, and I am from Canada, and that's where I'm joining you from. And I hand over to Angela.
Let me unmute myself. Hi, good morning. Angela Thering. I'm from Buffalo State University. I teach in the higher ed admin and adult ed department, and I'm really excited to be here. And I'm really excited to hear from my colleagues, and I'm most excited for questions.
And good morning, I'm Beth Small. I teach Spanish at SUNY Oneonta, and yeah, also really excited to hear questions, share thoughts. So Erin, take it away.
Thanks. So I'm going to go over a little bit about what the Open Learning Initiative is and our partnership with SUNY, some experiences. Then we're going to share some experiences with OER and content creation and all things that we have available for you in the partnership between OLI and CMU, essentially, and what you can do. But first, I want to take any questions from you and get you warmed up here. How do you know if your OER is effective? I would love to hear from some of you in the audience about your experiences with OER, data, and data you wish you had that would let you know if your OER is effective. Any experiences out there you want to share? Trying to do the teacher thing, waiting longer than is appropriate or feels appropriate. Oh, okay, here we got some chat, maybe. Okay, just some shout outs. Okay, well, we'll move right along then because there's a lot to share today. So for the Open Learning Initiative, and particularly Carnegie Mellon University, we take our cues and our the way we do things from Herb Simon, who was a Nobel and Turing winner, award winner and laureate. He was a teacher at CMU, and he really encouraged this idea of bringing people together in an interdisciplinary way to improve teaching. And he really believed that, you know, it wasn't about the sage on the stage, as most courses are taught throughout history, but really about making it a research initiative. And so we at Carnegie Mellon have this whole entire ecosystem of tools available that are open source and free to use, and that we can use to collect data, analyze data, develop content, deliver content, and we have this large ecosystem that we really try to get more and more people to use, more and more folks like you all. And all of this is to support what we call learning engineering, which is taking learning, making it something observable by really noting the outcomes and measuring those outcomes. And we take this model of what we know about learning. We form our hypothesis of how we think the students, what they need to learn and how they need to learn it. We take that from what we know from the learning sciences. We instrument that content in a way that we can measure against it. And hopefully that data will allow us to help students in real time, but also give us new insights into how learning works and how students learn in various contexts. So we call this learning engineering, and we practice this, and all of our tools in our ecosystem support it. And so we've really been evangelizing this technique, and that's to support the fact that most folks have this expert blind spot, and it's really hard to not only describe and to pinpoint the right set of outcomes, but also to measure more closely against them so that we can inform what we're teaching and how we're teaching it. And so we have this wonderful partnership with SUNY OER Services, which is part of the Office of Library Information Services and the SUNY Center for Professional Development. They provide a number of services to all of you as far as digital learning, sustainability, community development, faculty development. And so we've partnered with them to not only provide a number of open source and OER courses that are available to the entire SUNY system for free. But we've also worked really hard to develop courseware with you and with the faculty, but also to provide these professional development opportunities as well. And so we're going to talk a little bit about those and the experiences in them. But if you get the chance, really do check out this ready to adopt catalog of OER resources for all of you. And we can work with you to customize these as well. Other opportunities that we have, we go in, we submit for grants all the time with SUNY faculty and with SUNY services to provide other opportunities besides just professional development. We also have grants that will provide stipends for you to use and improve some of the courseware. We have this Data Science for Education, which is a new program that the folks here are taking advantage of. And it's just the start of a 3-year program. Each year we accept new folks into the program to learn about data science in education and to practice it. And then we have the CCSS grant, which really gives stipends to faculty who want to use our courses and customize them as you need. And RealChem, I did mention that at the top, which is a new course in chemistry, and we have opportunities available to be pilot participants to try out our Chemistry 1 and 2 courseware. But particularly these professional development opportunities are available for you all to take advantage of. We have this Learning Engineering Fellowship Program, which is a 9-week curriculum and a project. The outcomes are listed here. It's really going through and creating content, instrumenting content, collecting data, and learning how to improve using data. And it comes together with synchronous sessions, labs, really active learning and discussions and exposure to a lot of the learning science principles that we espouse at Carnegie Mellon. We really built that as a way to close the loop, as I say, between research and practice, really helping build up faculty and instructional designers to be these citizen scientists in the learning sciences field, learning, using what's coming out of the learning sciences, implementing that in their designs, capturing data about that so that we can inform if those methods are working and in what contexts. And we do this using our platform Taurus, which if you want more information or sign up for a free account, you can do that with the QR code here in the links. Taurus is available to all of you to use, to build, to customize, and deliver any type of content. The real uniqueness of Taurus is that it allows you to tag every question or activity that you build inside Taurus to outcomes, and that drives visualizations and data that you can see in real time to either help find struggling students in real time or to even help improve your course materials and your teaching. So, check out Taurus. It's really easy to just sign up, get an account, and start playing. Another professional development opportunity that we have is Learn Love Summer School. It's a week long, every summer at the end of July. We have it, and it's we have several tracks. One on building courses with OLI, so you can learn to get some hands-on experience building courses. You could learn to build intelligent tutoring systems, learn how to do educational data mining, so looking at mass amounts of data, trying to glean some insights from it. We also have a computer science education research track. And then this past year, we've also brought the folks in the data science for education program to Learn Lab Summer School, and they too will come back and help mentor subsequent attendees through that process and through that experience. So, check out the QR code and submit applications around April-May timeframe. And then Data Science for Education. This is a new program that we received an IES grant for to accept up to 25 folks in a cohort. We do this 3 times over 3 years. And the idea is to have a project. You get mentorship from CMU data scientists and learning scientists. And through that project, you get access to lots of free courses that CMU has as part of its Medals program, which is a master's in educational technology and data, learning sciences, applied learning sciences. So there's lots of courses and materials available, and this cohort view that we can support each other through learning more about what is data science and how does it help education and education projects. So the folks on this call are gonna talk through their experiences in these programs, and we'll have a conversation about what that was like. So I am going to turn it over now first to Angela, who's going to talk to you about her experiences.
Perfect. And I set a timer so I don't talk too long. Hi, I am Angela Thering, and I just am so grateful and excited for this cohort of people I'm working with, and for Erin, and for the free resources that we have access to at Carnegie Mellon, which I did the math the other day, $25,000 versus of PD. I did the math on it. Now, if I just had 2 years to work on that only, I would like that, but we don't quite have that. So it's really exciting for me to be part of this program. So any of you who saw my talk yesterday I came at DS4EDU after completing the Learning Engineering Fellowship. And the Learning Engineering Fellowship just sounded fun and sounded interesting, like something new, like, oh, that sounds cool. And it was free. We like free PD, right? And I was like, okay, I got on board. And then I promptly had my mind blown, and I promptly was very consumed with the homework Erin gave us from the reading list. And let me tell you, the reading list for the fellowship was something else too. And really kind of moved my thinking toward data and how I can use data in my courses. And I've really been, Erin uses the term evangelize. I've really been a little bit evangelizing, but I'm still a bit immature in this data science world, more than a bit immature. I'm learning. And sometimes learners are a little bit more evangelistic than people who actually know what they're doing all the way. So I'm really excited about what I've been able to build on a very small scale using engineering principles that kind of help me be a little bit more objective with how I iterate my course design. So those of us who teach and those of us who are passionate about teaching and those of us who have been teaching for a long time tend to have strong opinions, very passionate, these sorts of things. And when my learners don't necessarily perform the way I want them to, I sometimes feel sad, which is, I'm a human being. I sometimes have feelings, right? But it's really super liberating to go back and be like, okay, what did they do? Where did they get off track? And what can I do about it? It's super empowering and liberating. Oh, maybe I could give them another resource. Maybe I should have had a discussion board on this. Maybe I should have had set up some office hours, because some people get it like this and some people it's really much more challenging for. So moving from a 100% kind of reflective practitioner, taking my own notes, intuition based iterative design process to one that includes data. I didn't get rid of my intuition. It's hard earned. I've been in higher ed for 20 years and I've learned from lots of mistakes over 20 years to grow my practice. So it's not like it's gone, but it's really nice that the data can kind of pick up where my intuition or my feelings come short. And I'm very excited about the tools within Taurus and the different free resources for our students. And I really kind of just wanted to point out that I teach freshmen and I teach graduate school. I teach two different things. And for the courses that I have for my freshmen, I really like my resources, but it costs $120, the course package that I use. And every semester, I have to say to students, listen, guys, if you can't buy the course package, you got to find a different class to be in, because the work is all in the course package, which seems heartless, kind of. I have a little bit of a deal with the publisher that once in a while she'll give us a free one if I really, really beg. But it's really a tricky situation that the coursework is good. It's really good, but it's prohibitively expensive. So I got 30 seconds left. So looking at the resources that OLI has in my conversations with Erin, I'm excited about the growth here. I'm excited about SUNY's relationship with them. These resources do lean toward hard science. And I'm interested in being part of the crew that includes, education, social science, and kind of growing that field. And for those of you who are interested in getting your hands dirty and trying to wrestle with the Taurus system, the Learning Engineering Fellowship is the place to do that. I'm looking forward to the other two talks, and thank you very much.
So now I think it's my turn. Welcome everybody. Good morning. I'm Beth Small. Proceeding from what Angela said, we had a very similar problem in our language department. We were recognizing that a lot of students could not afford the textbooks in Spanish. The publisher's textbooks were over $200. And we had students failing the course because they weren't getting the book. Then SUNY OER Services put out a grant, and we applied for it and got a grant to develop OER materials for our elementary Spanish classes. We started writing it in late 2018. We finished it in spring of 2019. We piloted our first, so basically as soon as the pandemic hit, we had our brand new online version of introductory Spanish. So we've been working with it since then, using it in the classroom. We have a lot of data. The grant from SUNY OER Services helped our team partner with Lumen Learning, not with the OLI from Carnegie Mellon, but with the other, and they collaborate with OLI. Lumen Learning's platform is called Waymaker. It's very similar to Taurus in the sense that it instruments the learning. It's online. It's very helpful for online learning, and it gathers data. And so we've been using our book now for a little while, and Ed Beck, who is the instructional designer at SUNY Oneonta, he applied for the grant for us to do this data science for education project, for us to mine the data that we have on how our students have been doing with our existing Spanish materials, so that we can improve the book, so that we can do a second edition, so that we can advance our use of the materials. So that's where I come to it. And it seems like this might be a good spot to kind of pause and see if people have questions. Maybe 5 minutes of questions initially, before we move on to Karen. I think our listeners have been very silent. And like Erin, I want to kind of, reach out and tap the screen and say, hey folks, are you awake? What do you want to ask?
That is early. Oh. No questions in chat anyway. Oh, I'm just catching up on chat actually, and it is nice to have Rebecca and
Great.
Nicole. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I've been watching the chat, so there's nothing in there. Well, I have classes like this, and this is where I say I'm perfectly happy to just keep talking. It's fine with me. It's not great for the students, but okay. So I'll pass it along to Karen, because you've got some super interesting things to talk about.
Thanks, Beth. And Erin, if you could move to the next slide. It introduces one of the big benefits that I've noticed more recently, related to OER. Now, again, from a student's perspective, I've always used OER. I just didn't know the name when I started using them online with the advent of the internet. I was living and working overseas and really thirsty for learning more about what it means to be an educator and how to improve on that. So now I feel like I've come full circle. I was a member of the LEFP, which is the Learning Engineering 9-week course. And we had to create something at the end that was an open educational resource that has this value added that Angela touched on, which is that layer of data that helps us to complement our intuition. And we know from research that there's a mismatch between how we feel we learn best and how we actually learn best. And it's the same for educators. How we feel our teaching is going. Many of us say that, oh, when I'm in person, I can just tell. Well, I was really good as a student faking that I was getting it. I was really good like that Australian break dancer, like using that good old gesture. So the beauty of coupling what we're referring to as instrumentation, which is really operationalizing certain concepts and comprehension points so that we get data to see while students are learning, and we get feedback within that we can then add targeted feedback to. So I'll just give you a quick example. So we might have 2 or 3 new concepts that we introduce, and then there's a checkpoint that comes in. And this is the learning engineering element where the students are prompted to either do a comprehension check or a concept check. And then depending on their choice of those multiple choices, they get targeted feedback for each of those choices. And this is different from sort of the traditional multiple choice questions where there's one that is obviously not correct, one that's a little bit better, but there's usually a clear answer and you may not even need to understand fully based on what you just learned. So that's a layer right there that's just in time learning that empowers the learner to have the data to see, am I getting this? And it helps the educator to go beyond that intuition level, which is valid and important, but it just couples it with real-time data that gets us to deeper thinking. And so what you see on the screen are what I have felt are some of the affordances of OER related to our continuum as educators. So Erin mentioned this sage on the stage, and that's really the pedagogy element that is important. We do have to do direct instruction. So OER doesn't replace that, and the learning engineering layer doesn't replace that. It still introduces the content, usually asynchronously. But then there's that interaction that can become more of like the andragogy element, where you're the guide on the side through those prompts for students to demonstrate either comprehension or going a bit deeper with their concept or conceptual understanding. And then finally, by the end of the learning cycle, again, we use the word iterate, we can adjust the learning and sort of provide additional support as we observe what's going on kind of under the hood. As the live person, the educator, we can then provide additional resources for those students who need it, but also for those students who are demonstrating comprehension and that conceptual understanding. They can move on to that pedagogy stage where they're learning more independently, and we as the instructor are more a resource. You see that box that is indicated in the image. We're one of those boxes. The OER is one of those boxes. The data they get when they get that targeted feedback within the learning engineering approach is yet another resource for them. And they're becoming more independent learners and also seeing kind of what quality we can achieve in OER practices and materials. So that's really what I have noticed, you know, returning. I had worked with data a long time ago when I was overseas and sort of walked away from it for other reasons. And now seeing how we can get these rich data from the learners, and the learners themselves are empowered, and having experienced that from the learner perspective and as an instructor has been really valuable. And that takes me to the next slide, Erin, please, and thank you. And that's really about the experience that I hope that you all have in terms of working with the Open Learning Initiative and other opportunities that are there, is that you too get hands-on experience as an online student. And everybody in the room is here because they already believe in OER and they recognize its value, but it's in that student mode as well, where you feel that dissonance or that confusion and uncertainty. And then you have these checkpoints and you see, oh, okay, I got this item wrong, but look at this targeted feedback that helps me to think why I got it wrong. And so that puts us into this reflection mindset and iterative learning that helps us to build empathy for the learners and how they're learning asynchronously. The delivery is asynchronous, but the learning is never asynchronous. They're using OER in real time, and that learning engineering layer makes it more synchronous. And finally, we can use that empathy in our own design and development of learning experiences in what we do. So the only other thing I wanted to mention was the flexibility and adaptability of OER by adding this learning engineering layer. And so it's tough, as Angela mentioned, the stats learning curve is a little bit steep for some of us, but what we see in the data, and it's sort of like removing that curtain, the wizard comes out from behind the curtain. We kind of learn, oh, okay, it's really not that scary. It's helping me to see that this is a sticking point. I had this instinct that students were having hiccups here, but now I can see from their selection of these options, for example, why they're having that sticking point. So with that, I will hand back over to my colleagues and open the floor to questions or thoughts.
Yeah, let's look here. I think there have been some questions pop up. Any questions from anyone or anything you want to share? even your own experiences using OER and what you wish you could glean from some data.
While people are thinking, I put something in the chat about Karen's point about learner empowerment. And I think that when we use learning engineering principles to design, we can really allow opportunities for students to be a bit more self-directed, but at the same time, have this targeted, guided feedback immediately that, okay, I'm thinking about this, and I went through this. Each of us in the DS4EDU program took the statistics course, which I'm not done with yet, full disclosure. But while I was learning, I would, click on an answer and you get automatic feedback that says, yes, this is right because, or nope, try again. And it kind of gave you some reasons of why it wasn't right, like a gentle suggestion, not the right answer, right? That I could be like, what the heck did I do wrong? And I could go back and look at this and try to move forward. I found that extremely empowering. What I'm interested in seeing is how that relates to a course where there is an instructor involved rather than something you're doing fully directed. Because if I were, let's say, teaching that statistics course, which no one would ever let me teach, but let's say that I was teaching that course, then my students could run through the work asynchronously, but when they got stuck, or if there's something they just consistently get wrong, they could email me, set an appointment up with me, and kind of go over what they're getting wrong. I'm interested in how that angle plays out in courses that aren't fully run online. But the empowerment is super exciting to me, that I, as a learner, because we do these as well, can kind of move through and get feedback and know what I'm doing. And learning to design that way is really kind of it's not exactly completely different from what I was doing in the first place, similar to what Karen said, but it's just kind of more refined, more polished. Do any of my colleagues have anything to kind of follow that up?
I have a question for you all. So, given that this is a panel, I would like to pick your brains about the barriers, biases, and incentives to using OER. What can you all say about that?
If you want, I can start by talking about obstacles in terms of creating OER, which is where I come into it. And exactly that, Angela, time. Time and resources. There's also a certain expertise barrier that we ran into. Our original concept of our OER book was going to be basically like a course pack. It was not going to be interactive. It was just going to be, the free stuff, just our notes. The SUNY OER Services grant did two things. It connected us with the Lumen Learning folks, and they were the ones who did the coding, the ones who made it an interactive book. It also gave us the personnel resources to do all the things that go into creating an interactive book. So we're very calmly saying, yes, you have these questions, these pop-up questions, the check-in on how you do. It takes time to write multiple choice questions. And there's a lot of them, right? You have to have a whole bank of these. And so that was something that most of the grant money went to Lumen Learning, because they developed a whole farm team of people from across the country who were generating the multiple choice questions. We were writing the content, and occasionally, if there were some questions that were needed, they would have us write them. But so having the resources to throw human work hours at that time barrier. And then the other thing was having a sort of in our case, it was the grant, and we had a deadline. The grant was going to run out and we were going to lose Lumen, right? Their support for writing this. That kept us kept it from having this project fall off the top priority on our list. That was the other really big thing, was that over the course of this grant, we had weekly meetings and it did not fall off our priority list. So that was a huge obstacle. And we're really, really grateful for SUNY OER services to help us overcome that. What about implementing OER in classes? Do you guys have further thoughts about that?
Karen, Angela, do you have other barriers, biases, incentives to share?
For me, I think just getting started. I don't know if that counts as a barrier, but just, thinking about all the things I would like to do and then the limits on what I actually can do. So I listened to a panel yesterday of some colleagues from my college that were, just kind of, someone asked them, so did you get a course release to do this? And they're like, no. And, they said, well, I didn't think to ask for one because like a lot of the projects that we get involved with, we don't understand how much work and time they'll be sometimes. And I think that perhaps there's a model out there that says, generally from start to finish, this is the time investment that could be involved, or something like that, to like add layers of complication. So Beth's point that coders need to be involved, once she said that, I think, well, of course they do. But believe me, 5 seconds before she said that I had no idea, right? So I think that, panels like this can be useful for us, that to know a little bit more of what you're getting into. Like, it's really easy for me to say to you, Erin, these resources really lean STEM, and I am not a STEM professor, and I really want to take advantage of it. But can you go ahead and build me one that teaches adolescent development? It's a little bit easier said than done, right? So, and then Erin, of course, invited me to write my own. Sure, go ahead, Angela, go nuts, right? And I'm like, well, where do I even get started, right? So I think that is part of this. Like, where do you get started? How do you find the time to do this? Do it well. The support is there, but the onus on the author, it makes sense why giant publishing entities have had the market for a long time, because they have a full staff to do only this, right? And those of us who want to play in that sandbox or want to grow that way, the sheer magnitude of the work it involves, that I think, Beth kind of touched on. But Beth, can we kind of like pop it back to you in kind of, the time you invested in what you didn't know would be involved, or maybe like a blind spot for those of us who might want to start getting going with this?
Sure. There was actually some of the best investment that came into our creation of the Spanish OER book. We took, I don't know how long it took us, like there's 22 chapters in the, or 13 chapters, no, sorry, 23 chapters in the whole Spanish 1, Spanish 2 sequence. And I think we spent 3 months working on chapter 1. Because we were really refining our pedagogical approach, and how that would play out in the structure of the book. And that was time that was very well spent, that we took the time to define what our book's approach was, that we're not just sort of throwing things in there in a way that kind of felt right. It's that we were considering how we put it together and why each section would be in there. And in some cases, we ended up differing with Lumen Learning, because a number of the aspects of the book that we ended up writing are geared towards non-online teaching. We created a lot of materials that are not suitable for asynchronous online coursework. And that's the only stuff that goes into the Waymaker version. They did some sort of discussion board versions of the things that we created for classroom instruction. With the assumption that students need self-check, frequent feedback, study outside of class. They also, in language learning, they have to talk to people, right? There's a reason why you have classroom instruction. And so we have two versions of the book. We've got the Waymaker version. We have a PDF version that integrates these pair activities. They're called, a lot of them are information gap things, where student 1 is looking at one piece of paper that has some information. Student 2 is looking at another piece of paper that has the rest of the information, and they have to actually, they can't look at each other's paper. They have to actually ask, what is the name of, so-and-so's grandfather? If they're practicing vocabulary of the family, then they need to know the word grandfather, and so forth. Taking the time to design our approach, that we knew it needed to be communicative, and that forced that sort of gave us sort of the pushback to say, okay, Lumen Learning, we're very, very pleased that you're doing the online stuff, but we're going to also spend a lot of our time doing these conversation activities. That was important. So deciding what's important for your project.
Yes, so Beth, I'm super interested in what your intuition is saying about the data you've collected on that course so far. So you guys are using the Data Science for Education program to really dig in and see patterns. But what do you think, just from the little bit you've looked at as you taught?
I think we're probably going to find a number of spots where we run into the expert problem, where in our laying out of how do you do verb conjugation, whatever, it's a process, right? To go through the steps of conjugating a verb and then using it properly. I suspect that we're going to find spots where we've skipped steps, and the students need the setup in that initial online pass through the material, to sort of to lay it out a little more simply, and then have those checkpoints where the student can either jump ahead or develop more fully their ability to determine what is the subject of the verb in a sentence, because I think we might have not taught how to do that. And I'm finding in my classroom instruction, there's a significant subset of my students who need to work on that. They just don't do that as a natural thing. And then a lot of students, they just get it. They don't have to work hard to find the subject. So having it be an interactive book that will allow a student to dig in more deeply with the aspects, I think the data science is going to show us some of that. And sadly, my partner in this project, Ed Beck, is not here, because he's the data science guy. I did the first chapter of the statistics course, and I have not moved very far along. I'm very happy to rely on Ed's expertise for a lot
Yeah,
of
well, we're also hoping as part of the
crunching
program to get you just in time learning for when you need it, right? So, you don't both have to go through the entire statistics course. Like you have a nice partner that you can kind of balance the learnings with. I'm curious, where all did you hear about these opportunities, and how did you find them?
It was our it's now our faculty center. It was our teaching, learning, and technology center that sent it
Nice.
around to us. What about you guys, Karen and Angela?
Email from SUNY PD, I believe.
Both the Learning Engineering Fellowship and the email from SUNY PD, and a special thank you to Tony DeFranco for supporting us in this. I may have stalked him down at the CIT conference and said, am I getting in? Can I get in? I need to learn this. I don't know what's going on. I'm very thirsty for this knowledge. And he was, deeply supportive, and I appreciate that. I kind of touched on this in my talk yesterday. I think those of us who come from social science backgrounds or education backgrounds, I think it's pretty deeply ingrained in a lot of us that there are data people and there are not data people, and we're not allowed to play. And being invited into this sandbox and getting like a lot of sand in my eye, like a lot of sand in my eye. But I'm having a lot of fun just kind of exploring this. And at the same time, like Beth said, the statistics course is really a bear. But it's really exciting that I'm like, man, I've been waiting around for someone else to do my statistics for literally 20 years when I could be doing this myself. And I could be just harnessing these tools. And part of learning here, I said to Erin, a couple of people when we were in our week long in Pittsburgh, I was like, all right, I'm real interested in what you guys have in store for me to be a data science mentor, because holy smokes, I'm really interested in what I'm going to learn this year, right? And I keep on learning more and more, and it's very exciting to me, even though I'm nowhere near feeling like I could be a mentor. But for my own personal growth, it's been there, and it's been there quite deeply. And I just for whatever reason, SUNY CPD stuff goes to my spam mail, and I do check my spam mail every single day, and I keep on redirecting it. But read those emails, because sometimes there's interesting things there. And this learning opportunity for us, like I said, the stuff Carnegie Mellon's giving us is $25,000 worth of content plus a week long there. Like, I have been trying to find funding for one of those courses for 2 years, and someone, I think John, waved a magic wand and said they can have all of them the other day. So this is exciting. And again, thank you, Tony, for your support. And I'm trying to do right by you. I'm learning, man. See, I got sand in my eye still in the sandbox.
Yeah, I'm really excited about the opportunities. I mean, the data science program has just gotten kicked off. And these folks are in our first cohort. And what's really great about it, I think, is that we have all these materials, but it's really to form a cohesive like cohort where you'll support each other through it. You won't come out of it a data scientist. We're giving you resources to help with the crunching of the data and the analysis. It's really more of like a hand holding through a project where you will gain some of those skills and be able to speak to it and use them ongoing. But yeah, you're not meant to like, really worry about having to learn every little bit of it. So I'm excited to walk this with you guys as we go through this program. And yeah, so many shout outs, Corey, Tony, and Rebecca, who's also developed a lot of courses with us, Nicole, who's helping with a grant, particularly around developing a course in AI for teachers. I completely forgot about that project as part of this, but we do a lot of work with SUNY, and I love working with SUNY faculty because you all are so passionate and so wanting to learn and improve your practice. So it's really great. So anyone have any questions, comments from the audience? I know it's early morning. Well, not so much anymore, but probably your first thing this morning. So I get that you're sitting with your coffee and listening to us, but please, if you have anything to say. Well, I'll put my email in the chat, because I'm not gonna try and fiddle with bringing the screen up again. I might mess that up. And so if you anyone who's interested in any of these opportunities or partnering with us on other ideas, I mean, we are really truly partners with you all, in that if you have ideas as well, bring them to us, and we really want to see and bring them to fruition if at all possible. So happy to work with you all, and I'm really happy that you're getting a lot out of these experiences.